What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What Studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. But for today, let's learn some things on What Makes You Smarter. Now, show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, February 1st, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1. Senate votes down further witnesses in Trump's impeachment trial despite Collins-Romney defections. The Senate on Friday evening voted against a motion to bring in further witnesses and documents in President Trump's impeachment trial. The 51-49 vote was largely along party lines, but Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, and Senator Mitt Romney, Republican of Utah, voted with Democrats in favor of calling further witnesses. Now that the vote has failed to move forward, the trial will move to its final phase, with both House impeachment managers and Trump's legal team expected to make closing statements next week. The Senate voted Friday night to push a vote on Trump's removal until Wednesday at 4 p.m. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, then introduced a series of amendments subpoenaing a variety of Trump officials, including former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Senate Republicans voted to table the amendments, though Collins and Romney defected again on Bolton. This is according to the Washington Post and CNN. Number 2. Major airlines suspend flights between U.S. and China amid coronavirus. As the Wuhan coronavirus continues to spread, Delta, American, and United Airlines suspend all flights between the U.S. and China on Friday. The U.S. also announced it's temporarily denying entry to non-citizens who recently traveled from China, exempting family members of American citizens and permanent residents. The coronavirus originated in Wuhan, China last month, and Chinese officials say there are around 12,000 confirmed cases, with the death toll rising past 250. The World Health Organization has declared the Wuhan coronavirus a global emergency. There are 6 cases of Wuhan coronavirus in the United States, including the first to be passed from person to person. The State Department told U.S. citizens in China to, quote, consider departing using commercial means, end quote, and requested, quote, all non-essential U.S. government personnel defer travel to China, end quote. This is according to the New York Times and the Associated Press. Number 3, Britain officially exits EU membership. The United Kingdom officially exited the European Union at 11 p.m. GMT Friday, 3 years after its narrow vote for Brexit. Prime Minister Boris Johnson released a video statement lauding this, quote, moment, end quote, many people, quote, thought would never come, end quote, and promised to, quote, turn this opportunity into a stunning success, end quote. Johnson guaranteed a vote in favor of Brexit after he ordered an election late last year, which his Conservative Party won handily. Still, Britain is sharply divided on the issue, with larger cities, Northern Ireland, and especially Scotland, still in favor of remaining in the EU. Britain and the EU have agreed the UK will retain all EU rules for 11 months, while the two sides hammer out a new trade agreement and other guidelines for their new relationship. This is according to The Guardian and the Associated Press. Number 4, Lakers pay tribute to Bryant in first game since his death. The Los Angeles Lakers paid tribute Friday night to franchise legend Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 other people who died in a helicopter crash Sunday in the Los Angeles area. It was the Lakers' first game since Bryant's death, and the Staples Center crowd was emotional. Before the game against the Portland Trail Blazers began, players took to the court for warm-ups wearing Bryant's jerseys. R&B artist Usher and cellist Ben Hong performed, and a 24.2-second moment of silence was held in a nod to the numbers worn by both Bryants. The celebration of Bryant's life was capped by a speech from current Lakers star LeBron James, who went off script to honor his friend. This is according to ESPN and the Bleacher Report. Number 5. Trump administration announces expanded travel ban. The Trump administration announced Friday a new wave in its blanket bans on people from certain countries. President Trump's original travel ban was one of his first acts in office, blocking people from several countries, most of which were majority Muslim, from coming to the U.S. altogether. This newest iteration explicitly bans people from Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, Nigeria, Sudan, and Tanzania from receiving immigration visas, but doesn't touch those who are just visiting temporarily. That leaves 13 total countries on the travel ban list. Nigerian immigrants are among the most likely immigrants to receive college degrees once they come to the U.S. An estimated 60% of Nigerian immigrants to the U.S. have college degrees, as opposed to 33% of Americans who do. Census data has shown. This is according to the New York Times and The Week. Number 6. Australia fires continue to threaten New South Wales, Canberra. Australia's bushfires remain dangerous as some residents in the country's capital, Canberra, were warned Saturday that it was, quote, too late to leave, end quote, and were told to seek shelter from the blazes. 6 fires in the Australian Capital Territory, which declared a state of emergency Friday, and parts of nearby New South Wales were burning out of control, officials said, as hot and windy conditions are expected to last throughout the weekend. Water is reportedly being used to fight the fires faster than New South Wales received a bit of positive news in some parts, however, when only 1 out of 5 emergency warnings for the fires across the state remained at the highest level by Saturday evening. This is according to The Guardian and BBC. Number 7. Ex-Ukraine ambassador Yovanovitch reportedly retires from State Department. Former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, is retiring from her role in the State Department. Sources familiar with her decision confirmed. Yovanovitch enjoyed a 33-year career in the Foreign Service, but she recently played a central role in President Trump's impeachment inquiry and provided testimony about Trump's dealings with Ukraine during the House's investigation last year. Yovanovitch accused the Trump administration, namely Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, of launching a smear campaign against her because she disagreed with his efforts to reshape diplomacy with Kyiv through what she described as an, quote, irregular channel, end quote. She testified she was told to, quote, watch my back, end quote, in the days before she was recalled from her post in May. Trump allegedly pushed for her firing as well. Since then, Yovanovitch has remained on State Department payroll as a fellow at Georgetown University. This is according to NPR and The Hill. Number 8. John Delaney drops out of 2020 race. Former Maryland Representative John Delaney announced Friday he's ending his 2020 campaign. Delaney, who in 2017 became the first Democrat to declare his candidacy for president, said he's dropping out of the race so as not to hurt other moderate candidates ahead of the Iowa caucuses. Quote, my support is sufficient enough to take from another, more moderate candidate, and I just don't want to do that, end quote. Delaney told CNN's New Day. Delaney did not endorse another candidate, but suggested to CNN his supporters could caucus for former Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat, Minnesota, or former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, arguing they have a better chance against President Trump than Senators Bernie Sanders, Independent, Vermont, or Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts. This is according to the Washington Post and CNN. Number 9. The Crown cast Imelda Staunton for final season. Netflix has announced The Crown will end after its 5th season, which will introduce Imelda Staunton for the role of Queen Elizabeth II. Showrunner Pete Morgan told The Hollywood Reporter on Friday he previously envisioned a 6-season run for the drama series, but, quote, now that we have begun work on the stories for season 5, it has become clear to me that this is the perfect time and place to stop, end quote. Staunton, who will take over the lead role after a 4th season again starring Olivia Colman, said Friday she is, quote, genuinely honored to be joining such an exceptional creative team and to be taking The Crown to its conclusion, end quote. This is according to The Hollywood Reporter and Variety. Number 10, U.S.'s Sophia Kenin wins Australian Open. U.S. tennis player Sophia Kenin took home the Australian Open women's singles title Saturday, defeating Spain's Garbine Muguruza in comeback fashion. 4-6, 6-2, 6-2 at Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne. It was the 21-year-old's first Grand Slam title, and she became the youngest women's singles champion in Melbourne since Maria Sharapova in 2008. The match was tightly contested from start to finish, both Kenin and Muguruza playing at a high-intensity level. Quote, it was such a battle, and it was very physical, end quote, Kenin said. It's another example of women's professional tennis entering a new era which unpredictably reigns. For years, Serena Williams dominated the scene, but now 8 of the past 12 Grand Slam winners have been first-time champions. This is according to NBC News and the Wall Street Journal. That's 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, February 1st, 2020. Thank you for listening to What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Smarter. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube, username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.